It's amazing to me that we did this interview almost a year ago, and people are rallying around Marwan Barghouthi, other Palestinian hostages, and we still haven't seen all of this ground movement, all of this majority speaking for someone like Marwan Barghouthi actually having the effect that is needed.
My father is a Palestinian who grew up in Palestine. He embodies the Palestinian struggle in general. Spent more than 30 years of his life in Israeli prisons. Has been there for the last 24 years, and was exiled for many years in the first Intifada as well. So, he's a Palestinian leader, well known in Palestine as a unifying figure. And that's the most important thing, because in Palestine we really are hungry for unity, and we need unity in order to be able to face one of the most criminal regimes in modern history that we're going against. And this is why the Palestinian people see in him as someone who is a source of hope. And that's exactly why the Free Marwan campaign, Free Marwan, Free Palestine campaign, is a very important campaign, because it represents, first of all, he represents more than 10,000 Palestinian political prisoners. And I really wish that the pain and suffering that myself and my family go through is only unique to us, but it's not. It's the same pain and for more than 10,000 Palestinian families at the moment, and of course hundreds of thousands throughout the years, and millions in the last 2.5 years in Gaza. His freedom, just like the freedom of Nelson Mandela, gave a pathway for freedom for people. My father can bring that hope for a better unified nation in leadership, first of all, but also a hope for the new generation of Palestinians that there is a pathway for freedom and independence. So that's why the Free Marwan campaign is very important. So when people support it, they're supporting a better future for Palestinians, a better future for Palestinian children. It represents the millions of people in Gaza, in the West Bank, the Palestinians inside Israel that are getting discriminated against, and the millions of Palestinians in the diaspora that are unable to get back to their homeland.
For those who don't know, the occupation is very effective in division. Whether it's in Lebanon, whether it's throughout the Arab region, they go in, divide, and you're too busy fighting amongst each other to actually concentrate and focus on root cause, liberation. We're seeing this in Lebanon very much. So tell us a little bit more about your father, because one of the reasons I personally admire him so much is that he targeted this issue of division. And he's very effective. Do you believe this is the reason they are trying to break him psychologically, physically, and keep him in?
So the last time I saw my father was visiting him in prison 4 years ago. None of the family members has been able to see him in the last 3.5 years, so it's way before October 7th even. Right after October 7th, my father was moved to solitary confinement, and he's been there since then. His situation is, really like the other Palestinian political prisoners. We have lost more than 100 Palestinian political prisoners inside Israeli prisons only in the last 2.5 years, out of starvation, beatings, zero medical treatments, and so on. And my father in particular has been targeted by them. He has been assaulted multiple times, got injured, got ribs broken, got injuries in his right ear and in other places as well. And it's a continuous torture. And it's not because he's a security threat. It's because my father is a political threat to the current Israeli government, because they don't want a representative leadership that really represents people. They don't want the Palestinian people to be unified. The reason why my father is called the unifying figure is because he took actual actions on the ground, not just slogans that we throw out there. If you go back to 2006, it was might be one of his biggest political achievements is the prisoner's document, which is a document that he initiated alongside leaders from all Palestinian factions. And the prisoner's document drew a clear roadmap for the future political vision of Palestine. And it was the only document until today that was signed by all political factions, including Islamic Jihad, Hamas, PLFP, and all Palestinian factions. And that's exactly why the current Israeli government has released in the last 15 years, 800 Palestinians with life sentences, and they keep avoiding him and avoiding his release because they understand that he's someone who's capable on bringing the Palestinian people together, on having a leadership that really works for the people, cares about the people, and someone who has legitimacy and credibility, and that's not something that they're not interested in.
This is absolute insanity. This is kidnapping. This is proper kidnapping. What has been the legal framework that they hide behind?
So if we go back to 2002, when my father got kidnapped from Ramallah, and of course it's a violation of international law for so many reasons. The first one is that he's a parliament member with full immunity. The second thing is that, like, according to international law, you can't move someone from a country to country and try them there and so on. When he got his trial and his court, the first thing that my father did is that he did not, he refused to agree on the legitimacy of the Israeli court to put a Palestinian leader, parliament member, in prison. So he refused to even defense. And there are so many violations in his trial that I can't even name in this, setting. So, but to give you an example, the judge, when he was giving his statement, in the second day, like, we're not even, going, they didn't go through the evidence, they still didn't go through his statement and so on. He said that I'm a freedom fighter and I have the right to fight for my people's freedom. And she told him, the main judge told him that a freedom fighter doesn't blow up children. So she already made up her mind that he blew up children, which is absolutely false. My father has always been very consistent about his support of international law, his support of not targeting civilians, regardless where they are, who they are. So people to justify their target. So he was always aware of that and aware of the capacity and the willingness of the Israeli government of hurting civilians and hurting Palestinian innocent people. And he got, the Israelis gave it so much media attention because they wanted to position the Palestinian leadership as terrorists, because that's what oppressive regimes do. And he represented that. He was the face of the Palestinian uprising and the Second Intifada. And they wanted to give it so much attention. Ministers would be in court, put pressure on the judges. And they absolutely had no evidence of his participation or contribution in any of the things that he was tried on. Yet they did it anyways. And because he didn't have a defense, refused to have a defense, they gave all their lies. And the only 12 people who said that he participated, he was planning and so on, came to the court and said that we only said this under severe torture in interrogation. And, they brought 100 witnesses, only 12 of them said something. And even the 12, all of them said we were, tortured in interrogation to say something.
So this is to cause also further division.
Yeah.
How does your mother deal with this? Because I know we talked a lot about her last time. I can't imagine. How did your mother even meet your father?
I mean, my parents are both from the same village, and they met when they were teenagers, and they loved each other since then. My father, at the age of 18, went to prison. So he stayed for 5 years in prison. That's where he got his high school. And while he was in prison, he would send letters to my mother through his mother, my grandmother. And when he proposed to her, he told her that you need to know that I'm not going to be a doctor or an engineer. I'm going to be a freedom fighter, and I'm going to pay a steep price. So if you're not willing to take this journey, totally understand. I wouldn't judge. And she told him, don't think that Palestine is only yours. If you want to sacrifice for Palestine, we want to sacrifice for Palestine also. My mother has always been, has been working and fighting for women's rights in Palestine for more than 45 years. She's a lawyer and a very successful one, actually. But she left her law practice just to found the campaign for the release of my father since 2000. Once he was kidnapped, she raised us, she completed her master's degree, she became his voice everywhere, and my father used to always remind us in every letter, every communication or visit, that my mother is the most important person in the family, because without her he wouldn't be recognized nationally or internationally, but more importantly, without her we wouldn't be able to continue. She's the rock of the family, and I think she's a great representation of the great Palestinian women that don't get enough credit or get talked about enough in their share of the struggle.
Wow, this is so beautiful and so very much exactly the two kind of people that are depictions of the truth, but because Zionism has managed to manipulate the jargon, they have stripped them from such a beautiful story and such powerful individuals. How can people help the Marwan campaign, the Free Marwan campaign, and how can people support this, and what else is needed?
Yeah, first of all, it's very important for people to remember again, when we say Free Marwan, Free Palestine, we're talking about the whole cause. We're talking about the 10,000 Palestinian political prisoners. We're talking about Ahmed Saadat, Hussam Abu Safiya, and all of them. More importantly, we're talking about the biggest priority at the moment, which is the disaster that is happening in Gaza. And raising the awareness about him is giving a pathway for a better future for Palestinians and the political representation. Remember that without a respectful political representation of Palestinians, we can't advance and move forward. And leadership is so important. If we go back to any struggle in Ireland, in Algeria, in South Africa, leadership can really be the game changer. In South Africa, the Free Mandela campaign was the game changer, because now you're not only saying we're anti-apartheid, you're giving a specific ask to the cause, and that's exactly what we're doing here.
And you're imagining a future following liberation, so that things don't get hijacked, so that things don't fall into chaos. It's united, and I agree, unity is key, and that's why a lot of people admire your father, because he stands for that.
Yeah, exactly. And we're not bringing someone random. We're bringing the most popular Palestinian leader, someone who the Palestinian people see in him as a source of hope. And I think this is a very, very important point, because let's imagine that we lose hope as Palestinians. Let's imagine that we live in despair. That's exactly where the Israelis have won. And this is something that my father has always told me. He said that, if you lose hope, and he said hopeless privilege that we don't have, but if we lose hope, that's exactly where they won. And we need to worry about what we can control and not to complain about what we can't control. What we can control is internally to have a better representation, internally to have a democratic process, internally to have women's rights, a respectful, progressive state in Palestine. And that's exactly what he's always been working on. So I'm saying all of this to say that this is a campaign that gives hope. This is a campaign that gives a specific ask to the Free Palestine movement. And this is a campaign that really has all the Palestinian political prisoners, all the Palestinians in Gaza, all the Palestinians in the West Bank and everywhere, a voice, a platform, and so on. How people can help, it's through, they can visit freemarwan.org, and there they can learn all about the campaign, all about him, who he is, why is he important, why should they support his cause and his release. But also it has very specific and practical steps that they can take. They can see the resources in the website. They can print out all the flags, the posters, make sure that it's there in all demonstrations, talk about him on social media, make sure that they raise the awareness about who he is. Because as I said, it puts the Palestinian cause exactly where it needs to be, which is having a specific ask with someone who holds a political vision that is unifying and represents all Palestinians. And that's exactly what's missing from the cause.
We're seeing a terrifying level of impunity, but one that is a natural development to the impunity they've been enjoying since 48. So, what has the response been?
Yeah, I mean, the threats are always there, and you're dealing with an oppressive regime, with an apartheid regime. You're dealing with a regime that believes in ethnic cleansing, occupation, genocide, every crime on the book they're experts in. But I think we need to stay focused. This is one of the things that I've learned from my father, and I love about my father, is that he's never been driven by hatred. He's always been driven by a purpose, and he's always been focused on the purpose. I've never heard my father complain even once in his life, with all the hardships that he goes through. He's always focused that Palestinian freedom must be the objective, and we need to stay laser focused on it, and not to let the distractions, and even if we have internal divisions, rather than to feed those internal divisions by complaining about them. No, we need to solve them. We need to hold people accountable for them, and we need to find solutions. And I think that that's exactly what I think his way of living, his philosophy has always been. And if there is one thing that people can take from this conversation, it's that mentality that he holds. And you need to remember that this is someone who's spent the first 3.5 years in solitary confinement of his imprisonment. Once he got out of solitary confinement, the first thing that he did is finding hope in the darkest places, which is turning his prison famously into a university. He's graduated more than 450 Palestinians, prisoners in bachelor's degrees, and more than 200 with master's degrees, and some of them are leaders.
How did he manage that?
So he brought books, and he would literally for until October 7th, he would give classes 6 hours every day, 7 days a week. He had no breaks, no days off, and he made it very clear to the other prisoners that if you're going you are going to be released one day, and you're going to be celebrated by your communities for a month or two, but then you're going to be a burden on the society if you're not educated. And he's very big on education. I've never seen someone more interested and loving of the education in general. He's a learner by nature, and he's always been pushing me and my siblings to always go after education. If I go to him in a visit, because I used to visit him once every 2 years or so, and don't come with a new certificate, he wouldn't be impressed. He would only be impressed if I learned a new thing, and that's been always his mentality. So as I said, like when people, of course, he got tortured. Of course, I'm worried about his life, of what's happening, but I would never be worried about his and mentality and the consistency of his purpose and why he's doing what he's doing. He's always been very clear about it.